member will not be counted but may still be charged. Best of luck.
Talking. Best of luck. Today is the start of Anti-Bullying Week, and to coincide with the nationwide event, the gay rights charity Stonewall is launching a campaign which hopes to reduce the amount of homophobic language used in schools.
Well, fronting the campaign is singer Will Young. Growing up in the 80s, he saw the word gay being used in a negative way and worries that in schools today it's still something that's not being addressed.
With him is Rosie Ellingham, herself a former pupil who was on the receiving end of homophobic name-calling and bullying. And welcome to you both.
Welcome.
You were a victim, really, at the age of 9 before you understood anything.
Yeah, it was something that I heard. I remember very vividly being 9 and being called a lesbian and being called gay, and not really knowing.
But not knowing what a lesbian was?
No
Or
idea.
really what your sexuality was at that time?
No, definitely not.
And this was half of the problem, actually, as you grew older, and as you began to sort of ask yourself what was going on, and the problem was that because you were negatively being called gay or negatively being called a lesbian, that you thought that it was something wrong and that you shouldn't be having these feelings.
Yeah, it's exactly what it was. I literally had no idea, but all I knew that it was obviously such a bad thing because people were bullying me for it, that I couldn't be gay, so it took me a long time to realise.
Longer than it should have done.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't tell your mum? I mean, you didn't share this with anyone, did you?
No.
Well, eventually those bullies were dealt with, but you didn't get any support.
No, they were told off, but in a way that, you know, it's bad to call people gay, and then that kind of reinforces that, yes, it is bad to call people gay because it's bad to be gay.
So
almost.
do you think that language affected your identity?
Yeah, definitely, because it was just so negative. There was nothing positive out of it, and because it seemed like such a bad thing, and I always saw myself as a good person, and so I just thought I can't be this horrendous thing that people are calling me.
So what's happening here then, Will? Because you sort of look at it and you sort of think, you know, if anybody's making racist comments within the school or within society, I think we pretty much have come a long, long way with that. But when it comes to this, it seems that it's not being dealt with.
Well, I think there are two things. I think there's the word gay has become a negative connotation, so it's used a lot. That's so gay. It means rubbish. It means something's defunct. And I think there's out and out homophobic bullying, which is what you experienced, and then there's this sort of use of the word gay that's just become part of our everyday vocabulary, and people don't think that it's homophobic. So teachers don't. 60% of secondary school teachers don't challenge it because they don't think it's homophobic. Just under 60% think that it's used so much they can't challenge it. And these are the really harrowing statistics. 23% of young gay people will try and kill themselves. 56% will self-harm. And my point now is that we've come so far with gay rights that we now really need to look at the use of language, because if you're a young gay person growing up and hearing gay used as a derogatory term, you're going to immediately think that you're defunct. And what I say, I had a meeting with Michael Gove the other day, and what I said to him was, you're not born using the word gay as a negative term. You're taught that, and the problem is that teachers aren't picking up on it.
The trouble is that it's one of the way some way languages evolve, that it is often, and I think if you were to speak to any of the young people that you'd heard using it and say, do you realise that that's a homophobic comment, they would really be rather surprised. I went to see that film the other day, and I've heard it, this is why I use the example. I went to see that film the other day, it's a really gay film.
Yeah, I think it's about, you know, the positive thing is, and the work that we've done at Stonewall is, the schools that we've really concentrated on have been able to have LGBT ambassadors, young ambassadors in the school. The homophobic language has dropped by around 25% in 5 years, if not more, I think. So it's about educating young people, and young people learn very quickly. I mean, I was even having lunch yesterday with some friends, and, you know, a couple of them were teachers, and they were saying people just don't realise that it's homophobic. And, you know, if you look at the evolution of race equality, you know, language, their words that were used, you know, 20 years ago when I was at school, they're words that were misappropriated, and now it's about reappropriating words. And also, you know, you see on Twitter, I mean, 42,000 times a day the word gay is used in a negative term. 1,000 times a day the word dyke. 2,500 times a day the word faggot's used. And
well,
it's not put on the same level as sexism.
There is a law against it, though, isn't there?
There's a law, but, you know, who knows about that law?
Oh, no, well, I didn't until I read it this morning.
Exactly, and I think the problem is that it's not put... It's put on a secondary agenda below racism, anti-religious rhetoric, sexism. There is a charter in Ofsted that says you can't use pejorative language. It's not really followed up.
You talk about Twitter. There was a spat that's gone on over the last few days. Reported on Saturday, James Arthur made homophobic remarks in a rap aimed at rapper Mickey Worthus, calling him queer after the rapper mocked the singer in a cover of his song. Yesterday, James Arthur issued a public apology via Twitter, writing, "I would just like to make it completely clear that it was not meant in any way as a reference to homosexuality. I realise where the term has come from in meaning, but used in the context of the rap battles I've grown up with, it has come to mean something completely different. That said, I understand why it could cause offence, and that definitely wasn't my intention." Now, this is, you know, this couldn't be more current.
Well, yeah, and I know you've probably got something to say on this because we were talking about this earlier, but very quickly, I'll just say that I think rap has become... I believe it was used in a homophobic... I just found out about this morning in a homophobic way, because I don't think people use the 1930s definition of the word queer as it used to be. You know, oh, it was that chap so queer. You know, I don't think that happens. I think the problem is in rap it's seen as sort of OK territory to use homophobic language. I mean, you know, if I wrote a poem using racist language, I don't think it would be
OK, because it's under the umbrella of poetry.
Final 30 seconds.
Just there's two different types of homophobia, and you know, there's the attacking someone and using the words queer, but then, like Will said before about using gay pejoratively and as a bad thing, it's just there's two different types, and people sort of, I think they misunderstand that sometimes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Am I allowed to say one more thing?
Yeah.
It's about educating people. It's just about calling people on it and saying, have you thought about this? And it makes a huge difference.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very much indeed.
If you or someone you know is being bullied because of their sexuality or for any other reason, there are support groups who understand what you're going through and know how to help you, and you'll find details of all of that on our website.
News about tomorrow's show. We are going to be looking at postnatal depression. We mentioned this in the news review a little bit earlier on because of the sad news that's in the papers at the moment, a condition which can have, as we've seen, devastating